The 25th of May is celebrated as Africa Day, and the month of May as African months across the world by the African diaspora. Welcome to this edition, and I'm Untitled Chapter with this edition, and this edition focuses on African Day, Pan-Africanism and the Africa youth. And my guests today are Mika Chavala from Tanzania and Dr. Jonathan Asefa from Canada, Toronto. And thank you for joining us and stay with us. A very warm welcome to you, Dr. Jonathan and Mika.
Thank you so much.
Let's just focus on Pan-Africanism and Africa Day and the intertwine between the two. It is just Pan-Africanism spirit that gave rise to the Pan-African Day. The African Day. And nowadays, Africa Day is being celebrated, but it's not just contributing to the Pan-Africanism spirit, it's the achievement of the ideals of Pan-Africanism. So how could you tell the Pan-Africanism and Africa Day?
I cannot really separate them between two because it's all about Africa. And for me, I think Africa Day is not just one day, it's every day. Every day should be celebrated because you know, in the past, when you look at history, Africa went through a lot, right? So we have all the reason to celebrate every single day for the achievement that we have. And I know there's a lot of work to be done when it comes to Pan-Africanism, the concept of that. You know, a lot of people, they do believe that it's just maybe just a concept, or these days it became a trend. But it's a way of life. Like it's a way of life that we as an African, we believe that, hey, we're one and we are people, you know, and because of you I exist, because of me I exist, and all those different ideology that we have out there. So for me, I think it's a good thing that we celebrate African Day, you know, but this should be transcended to our daily life and every single day. We don't just celebrate a day, but you know, we celebrate who we are and what we want to see in the next generation.
Let me come to you, Dr. Jonathan. Would you add some, please?
Yes, thank you so much. So I agree with and concur with Mika. Thanks for having me and giving me this opportunity. I thank you and your organization. So the Pan-African spirit or movement, as you know, my colleague explained it very well, is since its creation and inception, above all, a search for justice to overcome ills such as oppression and unfairness, if I may say. That's since its inception. Now, when we come to modern day challenges, it's also a search. When we see it in the African context, it is a search to overcome modern day challenges such as corruption, poverty, or abject poverty and their features. I would say you know, the absence of access to proper nutrition, the absence of access to healthcare, you know, the spread of disease and corruption and across the continent, and war. So I guess above all, it is a search for justice in the fulfillment of human potential. And when we talk about justice, you know, economic justice is a big chunk of it. So we have a lot of young Africans who are looking for jobs, who are looking for, you know, proper, meaningful lifestyles, including Ethiopia. So the spirit should be embraced as a general, you know, struggle of humankind in the search of justice. So it should be celebrated and embraced by everyone. So a lot of people think of Pan-Africanism or, you know, its ideals, as you said, or its spirit, or the movement itself is exclusive and racist. It's not. I disagree with this. It should be, yes, it should be celebrated and embraced by any human being that is looking for justice in fulfilling his or her potential to overcome ills such as poverty, you know, absence of jobs, healthcare, absence of housing, and you know, the struggle to have a proper and meaningful, you know, life without having to migrate, without having to resort to war, and so on and so forth. So it's a little bit like the spirit of Ubuntu in the South African context, which is, you know, like as humans, we are one human family. So that's the spirit of Pan-Africanism. So I just want to emphasize that it is not a racist movement. It is not an exclusive movement of Africans. It is rather a, you know, a positive energy that draws into its circle, a positive thought that has within it or carries within it this idea of, human potential and justice.
That's really a very nice point. And let me give a chance to Mika. If you have just to add some more just concepts, ideologies, or just philosophies like Ubuntu, African indigenous philosophy like Ubuntu that you admire.
I have to say that, in my suggestion, I think this is something that it needs to be added into our school education curriculum to start Ubuntu, all the philosophy of Ubuntu. And we have so many African proverbs that they come with those philosophy that our people need to learn when they are growing up. Today, because the big problem that is facing us Africans is education. And when you go to the education, you find that little kids, we train them, for example, to learn English. We spend a lot of money tutoring and all those stuff, which is a good thing to know different languages. But what about the African spirit, right? If our people and our children, they are growing up learning and knowing about Ubuntu or this African spirit, I think they will have a different kind of Africa in the few years to come. And so it's my call upon all the leaders and organization. This is something that it needs to be included and to be learned, because it's really tell you who is African as a human being, right? I've spoken before that the system, it doesn't really, especially outside of Africa. Myself, I lived outside for 9 years. I know what it means to be an African outside of Africa, right? But we are human being and we are equal, right? And we need to teach our people that, because I believe that it might be very impossible to change the perspective of other people, but if we as Africans, we know who we are, then it doesn't matter what anyone else tells about us. And that is Ubuntu spirit.
So that's really great. And it is just only 12 countries that are just celebrating Africa Day as their national day or public day, but the others only mark the day as Africa Day. This shows me that they are not just giving much attention that is needed. And this also contradicts to the Pan-African movement, the sacrifice paid during that first Pan-Africanism movement by our forefathers. So what should be done by the AU as well as member states and citizens, and particularly by the young generation, politicians, activists, so that Africa can have a single spirit of celebrating this Africa Day? Because I feel that marking this Africa Day and living this Africa Day can promote Pan-Africanism. And it is just this time that Africa may achieve the ideals of Pan-Africanism. Yeah. So how would you tell on that? May I start from you, Doctor?
Thank you. That's a great question. It's a great achievement, I would say, that 12 countries have made Pan-African Day, or the spirit of Pan-Africanism, their public holiday or national holiday. I think all African countries will soon catch up. I really am very positive about this. Because again, as we defined it earlier, and Mika also added onto this, it is a great energy which carries the audacity, as I say, to address problems and devise solutions to those problems. And when we look at it in a broader sense, or in a larger sense, every human being actually should celebrate Pan-African Day. Anybody struggling to make ends meet, anybody who wants to succeed in life. I think this makes it a human holiday. So I would think that our African other nations that do not celebrate, including Ethiopia, which does not celebrate this, would make it a national holiday in spirit of this, search for justice, search for, equality, search for human potential fulfillment. So I am very optimistic and confident that other countries will soon catch up, including the African Union, which is the representative of African countries. But we also need to think beyond the African continent. Sure. So it's all humanity that is in search of some kind of justice should also celebrate and embrace this and make it a national holiday, or push their politicians to make it a national holiday. It can have different names, by the way. It shouldn't even be dubbed just Pan-African movement. It can be like this, you know, justice movement, but its inception came from our forefathers, as you mentioned it. So I guess from this perspective, I believe and hope that it would soon be like a national holiday in every country in Africa, and also go beyond our borders and, you know, embrace all humanity.
Mika?
Exactly. You know, I love what Doctor said, even at the beginning, the way you defined Pan-Africanism and African Day. And I think, you know, maybe there's not enough knowledge about that. So if the whole countries will understand from the perspective of what Doctor said about that Pan-Africanism, I think nobody will say that I don't want to celebrate that day. Like everybody will be like, oh, this is true. It's the Humanity Day, right? It's kind of like motivational day as well. That, you know, we still need a fight to do, right? We still need a work. There's still need a work to be done. So I think we just need to spread the word more about it and talk more about that. And I think everybody will catch up soon.
You are a public figure in Africa, and what would be your message for your African brothers and sisters, as well as just the politicians? Because we are just celebrating Africa Day, and we have been just celebrating the same Africa Day with while the country is just in the same status: poverty, corruption, war, conflicts, climate change, and climate change induced disasters. So what would be the message for political leaders to mitigate corruption and to fight for peace, particularly from young Africanists?
Yeah, I think it's a time for us to work on Plan B. When I'm saying about Plan B, I mentioned earlier that you cannot be in control if you don't control your own economy. So Plan A in Africa for a long time, it has been about loans, donation, and looking for aids from outside. And no matter how much you want to change our continent, there's always someone out there who is saying something, that this should be this. And if you don't follow that, I'm going to put sanction on you, and I'm going to reduce this, I'm going to do that, and you're going to suffer. So we need to move from the place of dependence to the place of independence. We need to work on that Plan B, which from the very start it was supposed to be a Plan A. We need to work on that so hard to make sure that like we have everything figured out. Oh no, and I mean, it's not going to take a short period of time. It will take a long time, but we need to begin to start like be independent of creating our own narratives and owning our own narratives, our own agenda, standing for ourselves and each other. And that's why I always talk about One Africa, because when you look at Africa, like for example, take a look at Ethiopia, right, with the largest dam in Africa. You know, Ethiopians, they gave their money to make that. Nobody else, no foreign money in that project, and that's why there's so many resistance. But that project, it cannot just provide electricity to Ethiopia, it can also support other African countries. If we are united and we're one, I'm telling you, Somalia will be in the light, Eritrea, Djibouti, Sudan, like Egypt, everywhere it will be under light because of one single project that is happening in Ethiopia. Now you can go to different countries, you can go to Congo and see how much that rich that country is. If we are united, we can actually explore these resources by ourselves and make sure that they are there for our people, and nobody else have a say on that. But today, when you go to West Africa, when you go to Chad, when you go to Burkina Faso, you know, you see that who is in control in those countries? It's France. 40% of electricity in France, it comes from Niger uranium. And when you go to Niger, 83% of Niger people, they are under dark. They don't have electricity. So Niger sustains France through uranium, and they have electricity there. So when you look at these patterns, if Africans will come together, we detach ourselves from all this colonial power, because right now French, it's pretty much colonized Africa more than the time of colonization right now in Africa. Like in Djibouti, in Chad, in all these different countries. So if we detach ourselves and work on what we do have, on our people, and start feeding ourselves, I think even our youth will be empowered, because we've grown up in an environment that we always receive loans. So even youth today, when they see white people, they look at them like savior, you know, and, oh, please give me money. When you can see that on the street, like asking for, give me money, but most of them, they're just broke. They come to Africa because it's cheaper to live in Africa. Sure. Yeah, so if we start changing that, and this is the huge task for government, even our people, they'll grow up in environments and like that they'll be proud of themselves that, oh, we've done this, we've done that. I remember in Tanzania, you know, the late President Magufuli, during his regime for 5 years, man, Tanzanians were proud, so proud, because he made everybody believe just in 5 years that you can do anything, and we are doing everything to make sure that we develop ourselves. Within 5 years, so many things changed that they haven't been, I mean, some other leaders haven't been able to change for 50 years, over 60 years. He did it in 5 years. And now it's gone. If you go to Tanzania, it's another country, just 5 years. And people, they have that belief in themselves right now because of what is done there. Oh, we can do. So people, they are awakening. They start like speaking. They start working hard. They start doing that. And we need that in Africa. And that will be the only way, one of the ways that will motivate our youth to take on initiatives.
Well, that's good. So you are just mentioning that still Africa is failing and being influenced by the colonial time effects. So if so, what political significance can this Africa Day have in order just to fully relieve such colonial era consequences?
Yeah, you know, the colonialism that we are going through right now, it's economic colonialism, right? Like, it's a mindset as well, colonialism, that it seems like it's almost impossible to make it out, you know, without, you know, economic support from the outside. And you have some African leaders who are standing and say that, you know what, we cannot be able to develop ourselves without getting loans and aids. But I say that we cannot be able to develop ourselves without being united. That's the thing we need, because we have everything in Africa. We have to remember that. We have everything in Africa. If that uranium support friends, that uranium can support Africa. But Africa I think is the first continent without electricity. Like when you go to rural areas, people, they don't have electricity, but we have everything. We have sun, we can use solar, right? We have dams, water, we can use that. We have like wind, we can use that for rain. We have uranium, we have even like we can do everything. We have gas, right? We have oil, right? We have charcoal, we have everything, and we have human resources as well. So I think this African Day, it has to play a big role to, how can I say, to promote Africa and its resources. And when I'm talking about its resources, human, and what we can do with that, right? Because we have everything, and again, even me, I don't know, man. Like, I really don't know, because I didn't get, I really don't know. I think about this all the time, about Africa and what we have and where we are at. I still don't understand why we get here. Because even me, myself, like I look at myself, I don't have money, but I see myself surviving. Maybe because of the decision I'm making.
You know what? People argue that the way you said, it is just colonial time effects that Africa is suffering from right now. And some others also argue that the current day Africa is not just grappling with colonial time effects. It is just the effects, the consequences, the evils that African leaders themselves have made. Corrupt leaders, dictatorship leaders, leaders who are just fighting for the absence of democracy and peace in the continent, who are just working with some evil actors in the West, or just countries, governments that have clear interest on the African resources. So what would you say on this?
That's a very good question, actually, and I like all the points my colleague Milka just, gave to you. But, to be more specific, or to refine the idea of Mika, and you're also to emphasize on the elements of your question, I think that Africa, and by Africa I mean African leaders and African youth, should start to seriously take their problems at heart. So should own their problems, should stop blaming others for their problems, should be responsible for their growth, for their economic success, for their destiny. And when I say this, I'm thinking about their counterparts, like African counterparts, like Asian countries or Middle Eastern countries that have succeeded very well after being colonialized. So we cannot just, blame others and exit all our problems by blaming others. we should be responsible to A, define our problems, B, devise solutions to our problems, and C, have like a very sound strategy, like other countries in the Middle East or Asian countries, to embrace our economic potential, resources, as Mika mentioned, and also our economic growth and success. So from this perspective, I guess this is the time for Africa, and Pan-African spirit is actually, freeing ourselves from the chain or the bondage of, poverty and corruption and war and so on and so forth. So it is an opportunity for us, to think deeply about this, to become responsible for ourselves, to stop blaming others or shift from blaming others, to start solving our problems, speak as one human or African family, work together towards a common goal, and achieve prosperity. I guess this sums it up. And in doing so, we don't have to have like a negative tone towards others, because the spirit of Ubuntu is we are one human family. This includes everyone in the globe. It includes Europeans, it includes Americans, it includes the Chinese, the Russians, and so on and so forth. So in that spirit, or the Asians, the Indians, we need to find, or Africa needs to find reliable partners in achieving like our success, because we cannot just achieve success on our own. We need partners. Now, the most important thing is to find reliable and trustworthy partners. And there are so many who wants to help us in achieving this.
So that's really great. And both of you have been mentioning that unity is the most important aspect of just prospering Africa and also promoting Pan-Africanism. And as we celebrate the Africa Day, Pan-Africanism, the role of Pan-Africanism was great and continues to be great. But this relies heavily on the unity of Africa, as both of you mentioned. So what would you advise the young generation of Africa? What's your comments or suggestions for the political actors in the continent so that Africa's Pan-Africanism ideals could be a reality?
Well, before anything else, first, we're human. And we all know that. And that's what connects all of us together. Like wherever you're coming from, you know that you're a human being. If you cut me today, I'll bleed blood, red blood. And everybody, you can cut anyone else, it will be the same thing. Second, we're talking about the context of Africa. We are Africans. And that's what unites us together. I always say this, that my tribe is African. My tribe is one Africa. Because whatever tribe that is in Africa is Africa. Like I can call the name of my tribe, but it's coming from Africa. So if what we are struggling between me and you is tribe, why don't we all admit to one truth, that our tribe is African? Because you're African and I'm African. So I'll start seeing you with different lens, that, oh, you're African, I'm African. We might be different, but we are African, right? And I think from that point, and that's why we started even this one campaign in our platform, #ProudAfrican, because we wanted to connect all Africans, whether inside the continent and outside the continent, to remind them that you're African and you should be proud to be African. You might be proud to be like Tanzanian or from that tribe, but the bigger picture, we have to see the bigger picture, and that is all Africa, that we are all Africa and we are proud.
Thank you. And Dr. Nathan?
Now, to conclude, in closing, I would say Africa is a great continent with amazing potential, its use being its human capital. We have lots of resources, as being mentioned. So the only thing we need to have is an efficient and organized way to use those resources, be it the human capital or the economic resources, and connect both into achieving 21st century standard economic success. So we can make this a success story. And the youth, being 70%, 60 to 70% of African population, is a great strength into achieving, all our potential. So training the youth would be part of probably achieving this success story. Finding partners in training our youth, creating efficient and effective ways and methods and means to achieve this economic success would also be another great component into realizing the African dream in the 21st century.
Thank you both, Mika and Dr. Nathan, for joining ETV English. Dear viewers, this has been the conversation with Dr. Jonathan and Mika Chavala from Tanzania, Dr. Jonathan from Canada, Toronto. And we talked on Africa Day, Pan-Africanism, and the African youth. Thank you for watching us. See you another time. I'm Santayo Tamrat with the program.